Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sinead, and today I have a very special guest. It's Allegra Jordyn.
Hi.
Hello. So I know Allegra through a music festival that I held back in 2019, and she is an amazing singer-songwriter, and I'll let her introduce herself. Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Allegra Jordyn. I'm a singer-songwriter from Toronto. I go to Berklee College of Music in Boston, but I've been here in Toronto doing school online and just working on a new EP, a new single that's coming out on June 25th. So that's exciting. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. And thank you for having me in this video.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me. So this is actually a new series that I'm doing with other college students, mostly my friends, and basically we're going to be talking about the differences between Clive Davis Institute at NYU and other music schools across the states. And this was definitely a really big challenge for me when I was applying for college because I really wanted to go to Berklee at first. And for a really long time, I was planning my audition. And then last minute, I sort of found out about the Clive Davis Institute and I ended up applying there and I got in. So definitely wanting to help other college students who are trying to decide which school they want to go to. And that's why we're doing this series to get the inside scoop from these students. So let's jump right into it. First question, where's your school located and what's the city like?
So my school is in Boston, Massachusetts, as I just said. I really like this city. It's a very young city. There's a lot of colleges in the area. So, Berkeley's surrounded by MIT and Harvard and Emerson and Tufts and Northeastern. So there's like tons of students wherever you go. So it's easy to make friends even outside of your school and not only like the music community, which like I went to some concerts and like met people from other schools like Boston University and became friends with them. So it's definitely like a very hardworking, grinding like students who are like anxious and stressed and like overwhelmed with school who are like grinding. Like it's a very like workaholic city, but it's a good environment for a school. And then I'm just not a huge city person, so I liked getting like doing some getaways and going around like going up to like Maine and some other areas, which is like definitely helpful when you go to school in a city and you're not like a major city person. But overall, it's like, yeah, it's a pretty young city and it's like easy to meet people, I think. And it's definitely the transit's great. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely really similar. New York City is like probably one of the busiest cities in America, and there's just so many students. There's like young professionals, and it's just full of like people who are grinding, and it's like a very like work, and like go kind of thing. But yeah, like I think New York City is definitely very vibrant. There's lots of arts, culture, like literally any corner you go to, there's somebody busking or like doing street art. And I think it's definitely one of the environments where it's like you're like really just put into the city and you have to like fend for yourself, and like it really forces you to grow up. So I think that's one thing that I've noticed about New York.
Yeah, I think Boston's probably like a mini New York because it's a lot smaller of a city, but like it's like the transit's there, like the museums are there, the live music, the concerts, the restaurants, like it's hustling. So it's definitely like a similar vibe and like the school, lots of schools and stuff, but it's a lot smaller and like a
Yeah.
lot easier to like cover all the area like at once and sort of not have like a massive city and like you've never been to a million places.
Yeah,
You have no idea where you
definitely.
are. So. Yeah.
Cool. So why did you choose Berklee?
I chose Berklee because I went to the summer performance program, the 5-week program in 2017 and 2018. I went in 2017, I planned to do that for a couple years. I had just kind of discovered the program. I think my dad told me about it, or it was like a Facebook thing that my dad came across or something. We talked about it and it was something I knew I was going to do. So when I was 15 and I was able to do it, I did that, loved it, went back a second year with a lot of my friends for 2018. And in your when you're going into your senior year of high school, you can do a scholarship audition for undergrad program. And so that's what I did. And I was like, let me just try this out, see if I get in, see if I get a scholarship. And I really wanted to go there, and I ended up getting a scholarship there. So that for this undergrad program. So that like just completely solidified my decision. And then I just knew from that point that I was gonna go. But I had planned on going and wanted to go because of the 5-week programs. Which if anyone has a chance to do those are great. And
yes,
it's super fun. Even if you don't go to Berklee and you're not planning on going to Berklee, the 5-week programs are great. And you did the Valencia program too. So
that was
that one.
That was like an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, there's a Valencia summer program. There's some other smaller programs that aren't 5 weeks long. And if you have a chance to do any of them, even if you're not planning on going to the school, they're definitely fun.
Yeah, and I like even heard from a lot of like students here at Clive, it's like everybody's done the Berklee 5-week or like some form of a Berklee summer program, which I think is really funny. So yeah, like definitely for me, like going to the summer program was a really amazing experience. It helped me like understand the school a lot better. And I think in general, what sort of made me like switch was like the whole conservatory style, because like I came out of a conservatory and it was like very intense. I was definitely intimidated by a lot of people there, but I still love everyone at Berklee. I have a lot of friends there. And yeah, like Clive was just this really holistic curriculum, and we learn a lot about like business and like entrepreneurship. And I think it's really great because you can just like go to all these other schools and like find people who are not just musicians, which you obviously also talked about, and meeting other people at other schools. So yeah, definitely probably like similar there. But yeah, our program's a lot smaller though. So we're like 60 people. And like, how many people do you guys have per year?
Well, our school is as a total has about 6,000 or 7,000, but there's definitely like 1,000 or 2,000 that are post-grad students, so like master's program students. My school probably has like 5,000 or so that are my year. So we do have like 1,000 people, but we also have 13 majors. So it's not all just like one. Is yours just like one major?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it's a bachelor of music program or a diploma in music program. And there's 13 different majors. So some of them are like music business, some of them are songwriting. So each year there's only about 100 to 200 people in each major. So in like your specific major, but there's about like 1,000 or so people probably that are coming in at the same time as you. So yeah, it's a little bigger.
It's a big community.
It's all a music school. NYU, Clive Davis is just your program, but NYU is a massive school that has tons of other programs, and you can meet people at NYU that aren't necessarily in music. Yeah. But my school is just everyone's in music, and you have to go to another school to meet someone who's not in music.
Yeah, definitely. I think like spreading out is like really nice. And also collaborating is a lot easier because like I can just like reach out to people in film and be like, hey, I want to shoot a music video, or like I'll email like my friend from photography or like something. So
yeah, that's like definitely good. And for us, it's more of like you reach out to someone from another school. So like Boston University has, I think, acting programs and film programs and whatever else. And then Emerson's also super big in like the arts. So a lot of times you have to reach out to someone from another school to do that. But even like I've met people at my school who, as much as we're all in music, there are people who do photography or do videos or do something else. And we all kind of collaborate on other stuff also.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so what are your classmates like? And I guess leading on to that, what's like the collaboration like?
The school is very international. It's probably like half Americans and then half people from all around the world. Obviously, I'm considered an international because I live in Canada on a visa. A little frustrating, but
I feel that.
Yes, but no, everyone's very passionate about music and super creative and like always down to collaborate or work on something. Everyone's just there to learn about music and to make music, and so it's a good environment. The collaboration, when I was in person, it was pretty good. I did switch to online halfway through my first year, and I've been online since. So the collaboration aspect for me right now has been mostly Toronto people, not necessarily Berklee people. But there's a lot of jam sessions in the first little bit. You've actually throughout like the whole year, there's a lot of jam sessions where people will like sign out ensemble rooms and host jams and invite people over, which is super fun. There's a lot of studio sessions that I did and some co-writes with people. So yeah, and also you have to take ensembles, which are classes for credit technically, but they're more of like a collaborative band experience where you like rehearse with a group of people and like have a performance. So those are fun and like allow you to meet people to collaborate with. And then sometimes you meet someone there and then we'll write with them outside of the ensemble. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to meet people and collaborate with people. And like all of your classes will have a lot of different people in them. You'll definitely overlap and have some people in your classes, especially when you're in your major. Like you'll have people you know, but a lot of times in your first year, there will be like tons of different people that you'll meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
all over the world, all different interests, all different backgrounds. So
yeah, for sure. Like it's pretty similar at Clive. I think I mean, in terms of our program, it's definitely more local. Like I think it's like maybe 60 or 70% American and like 30% international. So smaller population in general, but it's like, of course, NYU is still a very, very global school. So you meet a lot of people from like everywhere in the world. And like when we're collaborating, it's super like easy to reach out to someone. I think everyone's just trying to sort of meet people and like work together. I'm sure it's like the same everywhere too. Like you just really want to like work with other people and like meet other students. So yeah, people are super friendly with collaborating, and I've written some songs with people and like gone to the studios, and definitely the jam like environment is, I think, a bit different from Berklee, because like Berklee, like mostly everyone is like very good at their instrument and everyone just sort of joins in on the jams. Like, but in Clive, there's like a few instrumentalists, so it's more like a bunch of people watching and then some people playing. But we do have like little sessions once in a while, like once a week. So yeah. Amazing. So next question, what are your professors like?
I think it's like every school. I think you always have a bit of good and bad. I would say for the most part, the professors that I had were pretty good. They've all been very knowledgeable about what they're teaching. You know, you have like not only music classes, but all like the music teachers are definitely like experienced in music performance or music like theory and stuff and have taught at the school for a long time or have been playing in bands or playing as like a musician for an artist for a while, and they're definitely very knowledgeable. And the ones who, you know, there's like we have history classes and business classes. Like a lot of the business professors have worked in the industry. I have a music business professor that was involved with like starting up TuneCore, and one that worked for Island Records as an A&R. And so they're all very, and then one's like a music lawyer and stuff in like the industry and have been working with like a big bunch of big bands. So there's definitely a lot of professors who are very knowledgeable, very helpful. I think you always have some that you don't necessarily love or that you don't mesh well with or don't like necessarily work well with their teaching style, or, you know, so I've had a bunch that I've really enjoyed and have been really nice and understanding and helpful. And I've had some that have taken like a boring subject, or not even necessarily a boring subject, but something that I don't necessarily love and have made it fun for me. And so that's always good. And then some I've taken a class with the second time. But some of them you do always, I think everywhere, have a few that you're not like necessarily crazy about. And so you just have to like navigate, get some advice from people, like look around, see who's like the best in that specific subject or that specific class that you're planning on taking. And yeah, ask around, ask Berklee students. But for the most part, everyone that I've had has been pretty great. So
Yeah, I think same here. Definitely we're like smaller, so we have a smaller faculty and there's not as much choice. Usually there's only like one or two professors teaching like one subject. So you just have to hope that you get a good one. But like they're really, really friendly, and they're like so happy to like help us outside of class. It's just like it surprises me so much. Like, yeah, we also have like a music lawyer who is still active, and like a mixing engineer and a mastering engineer, and they're all just like still doing stuff. I remember one of my professors was just like walking into class, he's like, oh yeah, I like mixed this movie and it's coming out this weekend, and he's like, you should all go see it, and it's like a big movie, and it's like, oh my gosh, like they're still doing these like big things, and it's like really, really cool that they have like all these connections, and like they're still working, and they like know exactly what fields that we're going into. So I think
Yeah,
that's
same
great.
here. I remember at 5 week once, one of my professors, she came back and was like, oh, I just got back from New York. I was like doing background singing for someone's performance at Madison Square Garden. And I was like, okay. It's like, I'll perform at Madison Square Garden. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, I think at both schools, everyone's like, they're very involved in the industry. So they know what they're talking about for the most part.
Yeah. What has been your favorite class so far?
I don't necessarily think I have a favorite. I've loved my ensembles because they're super fun and you get to meet a lot of people and just like play music. And so it's not necessarily like a classroom environment. But from a content perspective, I've been liking my marketing courses a lot. That's sort of what I'm in, like the music business, marketing, concentration side. And so I've really been enjoying the marketing courses. But for me, it really depends on like who the teacher is and how they teach the course and what the homework situation's like or what work they assign. Like I've had courses, like I'm not a big history fan, and I've had like an art history class that the professor made the content really fun, and I didn't love the content, but like I really enjoyed the class just because of how the professor taught it and what the assignments were. So I think that like even if you're not necessarily obsessed with the content or obsessed with like what the class is, just to like give everything a chance and like see what what you do in that class and like give the professor a chance, because they'll try, a lot of them will try to make a subject a little more fun than just being like, oh, here's a history class, I'm going to teach it like your high school history teacher that just sat there and read stuff out of a book.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, no, I think for me, it's like also, it's sort of like a history class that I took in first semester, but it was called Our Friends Electric. And we basically learned about emerging technologies in the arts industry. And then we had to like apply it to certain aspects of like what these technologies could lead to. And I thought that was super interesting. But yeah, we also had like, oh my God, it's really funny. We took my harmony class. So my harmony teacher is like a Berklee grad. So my whole harmony class is just like Berklee theory and Berklee
Oh.
harmony. So it was really funny. But yeah, what's your least favorite class that you've had?
Probably some of the core music classes. I think that I've just taken a lot of them, and for me being a music business major, I've just had to take a lot of harmony and ear training and counterpoint, and they're useful, and I don't mind theory at all, but it's not necessarily what I enjoy learning the most. And like I'm obviously there to learn music, but in music business, but not like tons and tons and tons of theory. So I've definitely had to take like a lot that I've had teachers that didn't make it the most exciting or were really hard. And so those were the most fun. And then also some of my history classes have not been fun. But it just depends on the teacher, because I've had history classes that I've really enjoyed also. And so if you do like, history or a lot of theory, like you'd probably really enjoy those. But me personally, I need to have like a really good professor who makes the content a little more fun. And some of them I did have that, and then some of them were like the professors were a little boring and were a little just like straight with like, here's the material. And for me, when it's that material, it's not like my favorite thing to learn, it gets a little boring for me.
Yeah. We had I don't know if you guys have this, but we had a class called critical listening where we had to identify like the frequency spectrum using pink noise. So he would like play pink noise and then raise like 120 hertz. And then you would have to be like, oh, that's 120, that's a boost at 120 hertz. And like, we had to do the entire frequency range, and it was crazy. I don't even, that's like not supposed to be possible. I don't know.
We've never had to take something like that. I feel like if anything, people who are in like production at some point have had to take like some sorts of like music acoustics classes where they've had to look at sound waves and frequencies. So like maybe someone in that kind of a major would have to do something like that. But for me, I've never had to.
Mm-hmm,
So
yeah, it's like one of our core classes too. So it's like
okay.
Everyone's just like not having it, but still a fun class. I don't want to scare anyone. It's just very hard.
That sounds hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was the application process like for you?
For me, it was a little different than I think most people because I did my audition at 5 weeks. So I was awarded my scholarship then, basically knew that I was accepted and guaranteed a scholarship, which is not necessarily how it works for everybody. You don't go into your application knowing that you're already accepted usually. But I did. So that was definitely good for me. But in general, the application process is pretty easy. There's an online portal on the Berklee website, which you just make an account and access through there and follow the steps. I believe it just asks you for like basic information that it would normally ask you, anywhere would ask you, like high school transcripts and like any background in music stuff. I think there's not much really. Like, I don't think you have to do an essay. At least I didn't have to do an essay. Thank God. Wouldn't have liked that. And then they schedule you for an audition, which you can choose to do it in Boston, or they usually go around to other cities. Not sure how that's working with the pandemic, but you can audition closer to home. So I know that for me, like if I hadn't done it in Boston during 5 week, I would have done it in Toronto. And they just do the audition super easy. You sing a song, sometimes they ask you for a second song, so make sure you have two, especially if you do an original, they might ask you for a second song. For me, they didn't. I just did my one original and that was all. There's a little ear training exercise or sight reading exercise, little improv / ear training kind of exercise. Just sort of that stuff. You actually have about 15 minutes in a room by yourself before it to warm up and look over the sight reading stuff. So if you need that time to look over your sight reading stuff and try and at least like prep for it a little bit so you're not like scared with what you're going to get, that definitely helps. And then there's like an interview, and I think the questions, they're not like scary questions. They're on the Berklee website. You could probably find them somewhere in the application or audition interview sections, but it's sort of just like, oh, why do you want to go to Berklee? Like, what's your history with music? Just stuff like that. And you just talk, you just want to seem passionate and interested, and like they'll like you if you do that. For me, my thing was just to seem like I was really passionate about music and really passionate about the school, and they liked me. So it's definitely an easy process. For me, it was a little easier than most people because the application came after the audition, but the audition was still super stressful for me. So yeah, but I think it's not a super scary experience. And if you talk to people who have auditioned before, like you can get some good advice for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for us, the biggest difference is definitely no live audition, which made me feel so much better. I was like so nervous for live auditions, but I didn't end up going to any. So yeah, I like applied early decision 1, and then I basically like immediately got in. So like I didn't even have to apply for other schools, but like we had to do the Common App, we had to do like essays. So you do like the NYU application first, which is like the Common App, and then the NYU supplement essays, and there's like 2 essays there. And then for the Clive application, you have to write another essay saying why you want to go to that school. And then you have to like make a playlist of like 10 songs, your top 10 songs. And then there's like some other components too. There's like a bunch of written stuff. And then the biggest part is like a 5-minute video to talk about like your entire musical journey and your like musical world and like what you create. So that I think is like the biggest difference. But yeah.
There's definitely some differences with our school. I think the main ones would be the application process, and then also just like my school being completely music and yours having like a very small community of the music people, and then a lot of people who go to the school for other things. Because NYU is a big school, but your program specifically is really small.
Yeah, and I think that like factors in for like scholarships too, where it's like Clive isn't necessarily the ones who are deciding the scholarship amount. So it's like you're sort of left with like sort of financial aid and like recommendations, and they put it together to give you like scholarships.
Yeah, so. For us, when you do your audition, you're automatically considered for, I think it's like a merit scholarship or whatever. So that's definitely helpful. So a lot of people will get that. They give out a lot in scholarships at my school. And then if not, financial aid is a big thing at my school. So there's always that.
That's good. What does a typical school day in your life look like?
Well, right now it looks like me getting out of bed now and sitting here. No, it's very different now than when I was there in my first year. I'll obviously go off of my in-person experience because, hopefully anyone that's seeing this and applying in the future will have an in-person experience and not be doing it from home the whole time. But when I was in person, I usually had anywhere from no classes to like 3 or 4 classes in a day. In your first semester, your schedule is sort of given to you. It's just laid out. You do like placement exams and stuff all at the beginning, and just like you're already in the school, but like you do like placement testing and like ear training testing and stuff like that to see where you fall into different levels, and you can like test out of some levels and stuff. So I tested into ear training 2, skipped ear training 1. I also tested into harmony 2 and arranging 1, which the one before that would have been MAT, which is music application theory. So it's sort of mapped out for you based on that, and then based off of like a little singing audition or whatever your instrument is, where they place you into like an ensemble based on your style and stuff. So it's very like, it's laid out for you in your first semester for sure. Like you don't pick anything, but they usually try as best as they can to even it all out for you across classes. But sometimes you'll end up with like, I didn't have any classes on Tuesdays, but Mondays, I think I had like 3 or something. So it's like some days you'll have more, some days some days you could have 3 or 4, some days you can only have 1. Classes sort of range from like an hour to, 2 hours, occasionally 3 hours. I've never had a 3-hour class, but I know some people have. I can't imagine doing that. Usually if it's like a 3-hour class, they'll break it up. So you have like 2 hours one day a week and then 1 hour another day. So it'll be like usually there's like an English class that it's like a 3-hour in a week, 3 hours in a week, but it's not all at once. Like, so
yeah.
But then when you register yourself in your second semester, and then later on, now I do it, you just sort of rearrange your week however you want. So you can squeeze it into 3 days or 4 days, or, space it out across the week. You can kind of choose. Earliest classes are usually at 9 a.m. I usually try to start at like 10 or 11 because otherwise I like to study early in the morning, like go to a coffee shop and do some work. So that's a big thing for me. I'm usually finished by 6. Is like the latest that classes will go, but some people, it depends on your major, I think, because some ensemble rehearsals will go into the evening, but they're not like sit down classes like lectures or anything. Some majors might have certain labs or seminars that are like in studios and stuff, which will happen in the evening. So it sort of depends. But for me, I would like get up, I was in my dorm, I would like eat something, make a coffee, go to my morning classes, go to like a cafe. There's a lot of cafes. Like I love going to either Pavement or Tate, which are both in the area, and they you can just go study there, and it's like full of Berklee students studying. Also the Berklee cafeteria, or Cafe 24, which is Boston Conservatory, but it's super close because it's the same, the Berklee and Boston Conservatory are technically the same school, and you can use your meal card there if you're in the dorms. So yeah, I would just take some time to like study there. Usually I would probably try to go to my room at some point in the day, like take an hour to chill or watch a show. The dorms, the 160 dorm has a gym in it, so I'd usually try to do that at some point, usually like a couple times a week, try to go work out there. But yeah, in the evenings, you just like hang out in friends' rooms, go to a practice room and write, or like go to jam sessions, do homework. I don't know. It's a very like school kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then like the evenings are definitely, and the weekends are definitely like go work with people, go to house shows, go meet people, you know, that kind of, that kind of thing.
Oh my
But
God.
there's a lot of work. They really work you at my school, but it's like if you learn time management.
Yeah,
You
no,
do.
for sure. I think it's like we have to take like 18 credits, but it's like split up into like 6 to 8 classes per
Yeah.
semester, and like all my other friends are like, why do you take like 8 classes?
No, exact same for us. It's usually like 6 to 8, 9-ish. It's crazy. But also some of them are like private lessons or ensembles.
Yeah.
So it's like those are classes, but not necessarily classes, but they still take up your time. So
exactly. Yeah. So like definitely lots of class to go to. I mean, I typically would like wake up and then make breakfast and then like go to class. Obviously, like I did virtual class, so I didn't have to leave my dorm. And then yeah, no, it was not fun. I'm really excited for everything to open back up, but like yeah, our studios were open, so it was actually not terrible. I would like sometimes go to the studios and like work. People would be there, so you could just like hop into a room with someone and like see what they're working on or like collaborate or something. So that's always super fun. And then yeah, and then in the evenings we go out, dinners. There's so many places to eat around New York City and like things to do, so you can never get bored.
yeah. Music schools work you a lot though. They
Mhm.
do. If you're going into music, good luck.
Cool. So what are the dorms like?
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about the dorms. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very extroverted and I love meeting people, but I also do really like my own space and I need to be alone a lot to recharge, which is if you're kind of person like that, then the dorms are a little hard. Um, at 5 week, I was in the 160 dorm, which is, you know, the newest building. It's really nice for a dorm building. It's very tall, lots of windows, lots of sunlight, good communal areas. I had one roommate there, and the on that dorm build, there's communal bathrooms, and I like my own bathroom. So that's a big one. And then also that the elevators are a little frustrating sometimes. There's 2 elevators and 16 floors, so they can get crowded and be a little slow. And occasionally there will be one will break down and there'll be one elevator for 16 floors. So definitely take that into consideration for timing your day, because that can sometimes take a second. But I think there's pros and cons of all the dorm buildings. I also lived in 150, so I'll talk about that one for a sec. During my first year, that's where I lived. It's a little bit of an older building. It's pretty much next door, right across the street, super close. It's a pretty good community, and you do have your own bathrooms, which was helpful. But for me, I had 2 roommates and I had to share a smaller space and a bathroom with 2 other people. So that was a little hard for me. But you know, I think in 150, there's double dorms, triple dorms, and then singles also. If you're specifically like medical reasons or other reasons, you can request a single one. I happen to have 2 roommates, which was hectic and a little hard for me at some points. But one thing also about 150 that I like is that you can just go downstairs to go to classes. Some of your classes will be in 150 or like 130, 136. They're like the building numbers is what we call them by. And all of them are connected. So especially if it's like snowy and like cold out, sometimes you don't even have to leave. And if you have a 9 a.m., you can just like roll out of bed, put on sweatpants and like make yourself a coffee and like walk downstairs and your class is right there. So that's like convenient. Sometimes you don't have to walk everywhere. The dorms are like really in the center of like everything other than 270, which is a couple of streets away. Some people really love it. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. But yeah, for me, the dorms, I think that I just need my alone time, and I like to have my own space. So I'm not a huge fan of dorms, but I do think it's part of like college experience. And if you go to Berklee and you have the experience to live in the dorms, go for it. And then maybe get an apartment after that. If you can afford it also, because it is an expensive city.
Did you guys get to choose your dorms?
We get to request dorm buildings. You get to put your first and second. There's like 3 or 4 different dorm buildings, so you get to put in your request for like your first and second pick, I think. So I requested 160, but I got because that's where I lived in the summer programs. But I got 150. I also requested my roommate. We ended up with a third roommate also, which was no problem because we made friends with her. She was cool. But yeah, so you do get to choose. You sort of get to choose. You get to request it and like sort of write out, your experience, like what you want in the dorms. So, and they give you like a good explanation sort of on what all the dorm features are. So you're not picking out of like no knowledge. And it's just like, here, 150 or 160, which number would be like better?
Yeah.
They really give you like a lot of explanation and then say like, what would you prefer? And then they don't guarantee anything, but usually like if you request a roommate, they will guarantee that, like for the most part. If you submit it in time, then they're usually good about that. I've never had issues with that. So
yeah. I think for us, we also get to choose, like we get to request our dorms. So we have like 10 dorm buildings, and obviously it's like all of NYU, like all NYU freshmen, and your roommate could literally be anyone, like they randomly assign it. So you don't get to pick, which kind of is disappointing to some people, but it's also a really, really great way to like meet new people. And they tend to like put people together who are like compatible, but if you end up like not working out with your roommate, you can always like request a swap. So that's really nice. And then also the thing you said about the elevators is like so relatable. We also had 16 floors, and like one of them was like broken for almost all of spring semester. And because it was COVID too, we were only allowed 2 people in the elevator at a time. So it was so painful. And then during move out week, the elevator broke again. And then at one point, I think both of the elevators weren't working during move out week.
Oh my God.
So
I couldn't have imagined being in the dorm buildings, like in 160 during COVID. I feel bad for anyone who's like experiencing that now or in the last semester that we were in person and I wasn't there. But if anyone was, in 160 with broken elevators in COVID, I would feel so bad. I don't know. I hated it in normal circumstances, and to have like a limit of people in the elevator, that
would be terrible.
No.
Yeah. Cool. So what do you usually do on weekends?
It definitely depends. Sometimes I'd, a lot of times I would say I took a chill day to myself because I'm a very workaholic person and there's a lot going on during the week that it was really nice to just like relax. Always fun to see friends and do normal human activities that aren't music related, like go on a walk or go shopping or go to, a restaurant or a cafe with friends, hang out. My 2 best friends both were living in Boston, but neither of them actually went to my school. So I would usually and they lived right outside of Boston actually. So a lot of times I would like Uber or take the train there to see them, or they'd come to the city and we'd do something. So it was like super fun for me to like have 2 friends outside of Berklee that were like 2 of my best friends. So it was like when I needed to get away, that was really nice. Pretty rarely I would go to a party. There were parties usually in either people's apartments or house shows, which are basically a concert that's like run by Berklee students and a Berklee band that's in someone's basement, usually like just sort of maybe 10 or 15 minutes from the school. And so people would like meet up before Uber over or whatever. It makes me uncomfortable a little bit now to think of those now that COVID's here because it's like a giant mosh pit. I'm like, pre-pandemic, they were interesting. I'm not a big party person. So on the weekends, I'd usually either see my friends or do something relaxing. Sometimes I would go out to like Maine or something, sometimes by myself. Sometimes I'd go somewhere like with a friend, or friends. And then occasionally I'd fly home for the weekend to see my family. If there wasn't like a holiday, or if there like wasn't anything coming up and like I needed to go home for a little bit, I would just fly home. But there's a lot of things to do in Boston. There's like the art museums, there's a lot of concerts. In the winter there's like a little less, but especially when it's nice out, like there's like the river and stuff, which is like gorgeous, seaport, tons of like different areas that you can go explore. And so I would say there's like a lot to do. I just am a very like bubble person, like when I'm living in dorms and like my friends, because my roommates would sleep out on the weekends or like go stay away, like go home or go somewhere else. And I was like, oh, I'm alone. Okay, I just gotta like face it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to do in Boston though. I know New York is definitely more, even more.
Yeah. I like sometimes on the weekends I'd just be like, oh, I want to go to like an art gallery. And there's so many, like I've been going to a lot of small galleries lately, like private galleries, and they're just so amazing. And they're like really small and quiet, and it's like really nice to just be like immersed in other art that is not music. And yeah, sometimes I go out to dinner with my friends or just like walk around the city a lot. Yeah, New Yorkers do a lot of walking. Like I've walked all of Central Park before. Like sometimes I walk like all the halfway down the island. It's just like crazy. But yeah,
well, it's
lots.
massive. Yeah, New York is massive, so you walk and you don't cover much ground. Boston, you can walk a little further out. There's also the Boston Common is not far, like because you were just talking about Central Park, it reminded me. In the winter there's like skating and stuff there, so there's definitely a lot of things to do. You just gotta like look up what to do. And like look up where are cool places, ask around, see what's going on.
Yeah. So last question. What is something you wish you knew before attending Berklee?
I wish I knew that there was a pandemic coming. I'm kidding. Well, it kind of ruined my experience, I'm not gonna lie, because for me now to like move back, it's sort of like for like one more year, it's like that ship has sailed, like I'm sort of past it at this point. But no, I'm kidding. I wish I knew. I did wish I knew about the pandemic, but I don't know how that would have affected my decision. But I wish I knew how much work it was. Sort of like I didn't expect to be like taking this many classes and have this much at a time. It is a lot and you can get burned out. It is really important to, when you can take days off, take days off. And if you're the kind of person that needs to see people to recharge, like go do something fun with people, go to a cafe, go to a concert, if you don't want to do something music related, go to an art museum or something else. If you're like me and you need to be alone to recharge, just like take days off. If you don't have if your roommates aren't around, just take advantage of it and like just watch TV in your room, because that's what I did. It is overwhelming. It is a little stressful. It is tiring. So just like stay on top of your mental health.
Yeah.
I just wish I knew like how quickly you could get burned out in university or college, and like especially out of music school, and like how it can be frustrating because you're like constantly doing music and then you want to do your own music, and it's a little hard to focus on that when you've been focusing on so much music and you just want to rest. So yeah, I wish like I knew how much craziness it would be, how quickly I would get burned out, and just like how I needed to learn a lot of how to like time manage and how to take breaks and balance my work and my school versus other things in my life. So definitely wish I knew how much I was going to be doing.
Honestly, I don't have anything to add to that. That's literally what I would tell people, because it's been so stressful. Like I feel like my creativity is just drained. So I'm just like taking the summer to recharge. Do you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah, I'm Allegra Jordyn.